So I'm feeling like I really want to say something in relation to so podcast, the Know For Sure podcast with B Simone and Megan Ashley. Their recent upload, they just had uh, Jackie Hill Perry on there, or Jackie Perry Hill. I don't remember how her name goes. And I feel like I really need to say this potentially for my younger self, and then also just maybe for people that are like me, that grew up like how I did. If you listen to that podcast, or if you don't, there's really no. I'm not going to explain the podcast. There's no point in explaining the podcast because you shouldn't be watching this video if you don't know what I'm talking about. just let it go. But there's a segment in the podcast where Jackie, and this isn't this. I'm not trying to speak. This isn't. I'm not trying to like speak ill on her experience, because one thing that I've learned is that everybody can have a different experience with the same experience. Everybody can have a different experience with the same person. Everybody can have a different experience with the same product. So I'm not speaking ill on her experience or how her story went, even though the topic of like homosexuality, or being growing up in a religious household, growing up in a Christian household, or just, and she didn't even grow up in a Christian household, but basically the Christianity versus homosexuality conversation. And I'm using Jackie Hill Perry's particular statement for something that's bigger than her. This video isn't really about her, but I need to. What she was sharing was that in her experience, in her coming to Jesus experience, and not just hers, but other people who have claimed or actually been released of their homosexuality, because anything can be released of. I could be released of being a woman in today's times. So I don't know how else to say it, but being released of homosexuality, right? When she is sharing her story and how she got through it. By the way, she's a great speaker and all that. I obviously, at my age, at 30, I have a different history with her story, because I am a black gay woman, and I grew up with a pastor as my father. I grew up in a religious household. My whole household is still religious, and their children are religious, and I'm the oddball out. But a lot of things we have gone through so much, and we've gotten close. That's what happens with growth, right? You grow apart and then you literally grow back together. It's crazy. So we have a don't ask, don't tell policy in my family. And that's not just for gays. That's for everything. If you got something going on in your life that I don't agree with, don't talk to me about it. Vice versa. Like, seriously, like, we just like, why would we even bring that up? We're not going to agree. And everybody in my family is pretty headstrong. I mean, our father's a pastor. So we have a father who was preaching the word of God. Basically, his voice was power. What I say has power. So we learned that by seeing him. My mother was an NCO in the military. Her voice had power. So me and my siblings, we all basically feel like when we speak, it has power. It may be only for us, but basically, if I'm saying something, or if I have a feeling, or if I'm saying something that how I feel in this moment is my truth, and you really ain't gonna change my mind. Stubborn. We're stubborn. But Jackie, when she's sharing the story, it's not like she said it in this way, but when she's sharing the story about how she got released of homosexuality, however you want to say it, it sounds like such a wow, and it's not her, it's how people respond to her and how they've responded to her for years. Maybe at one point she did say something like that too, but I don't know. It's been years. The woman is completely different now than who she was then. So who knows all the things she said. And because I don't really rock with her story, I don't listen to most things she says. But I listen to the Know For Sure podcast. And when she's giving the story of being released of her, homosexuality or homosexual tendencies, because, the girl was 20 by the time she came to God. People been gay for a lot longer. So coming to God at 20 is a lot different than if somebody came to God at 46. There's a lot of experience there that's different. So, even that within itself. I really want to say this, that no matter the topic, it's okay if you have a different outcome or if you have a different story with the same topic. Anybody, any topic, any situation that is preaching a one way, like like that's it, there's only one way to do anything, they're kind of bigots. And I say this, even I have been in that position when I was religious. But even when I came out of being religious and I identified with certain other spiritual aspects, until I continued to expand my mind, and obviously I'm only 30, so I still have more room to grow. But there are certain things that even I have seen myself be bigoted in, like, oh well, black people shouldn't do that, or this shouldn't be happening, or if you're spiritual, you shouldn't do that, or Christians shouldn't do that. I mean, I do and have to check myself. Anybody can do a thing. Anybody can do something in a totally different way than anybody else has, because their story is designed by God. God may have 50-11 people doing it this one way, and literally make 50-11 and 7 people do it a different way. That's God. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, mind my business. Everybody mind their business. If God wants to do things 55-7 ways and be like, they're all right, but a majority of y'all gonna have to do it this way, that's just what he said. It ain't nothing to do with me, right? But when she's telling her story of being released of her homosexuality, watching B. Simone and Megan Ashley respond and like, wow, and it's not just them. And these are not words that they have said. This is my interpretation of their response. But it always, not always, but in these situations, it always gives off like, wow, God delivered you from being homosexual because you're no longer homosexual. And in these type of storylines, there's nothing wrong with them, because that's their truth. There's nothing wrong with them. But these type of storylines, I feel a duty to say this for people who had a situation like me. I grew up very religious. If you think I did not beg, cry, plead, release to God all of my desires, and literally be like, looking like Jackie, but probably different, because I grew up with the pastor as my father, or I grew up in the overly religious household. Not like my situation was more tough than hers. I don't know her life, but saying just different. Ooh, and I know it was tough for me. I was adamant. I couldn't understand. I got to a place where I said those same words. God, if you want me to stop having these gay desires, because before I started accepting my sexuality, before God gave me the understanding that my taboos are different, I was and I was young, y'all. I was a kid, hating myself, afraid of myself. My identity was fucked up because I was just so like, I am in this body. I am who I am. I have these desires. I have these desires, but I don't want them. And then on the outside, I have my whole environment. It's completely against the desires that I have. My self-esteem was getting shot up. Like a black man in the street with a cops in front of him, getting shot up. Horrible. But for real. So I even married myself to God at 15. Because I was like, I only like women. So I completely turned myself away from even the thought of relationships, because I didn't like guys. So I knew I'm cutting myself off. I'm not available to anybody. I said those words that, God, if you want me to be straight, take these desires away from me. And I did not say it once. I said it multiple times. I meant it multiple times. I released my own desires to God multiple times. You have to understand, I was a youth pastor. I was very spiritual. Like, I was doing a youth leading activities for my father's church. Not only me, but I was one of those. I was even literally preaching words for youth services, y'all. So when I don't like, I'm not playing. I was in it. And I did not get the same outcome. God did not take the desires away from me. That's not the end. So in these stories, in Jackie's story, when she's sharing how God released her of homosexuality, and then that's how her relationship with God was saved, or that's how her relationship with God kind of came to fruition in that particular story. Her relationship with God came to fruition with other aspects of herself, right? But we're talking about the homosexual aspect. The celebration that outcome receives, the celebration from outside sources, the B. Simones and the Megan Ashleys, who are representing a bigger scale. So I'm not literally talking about them, but they're representing a bigger audience. The celebration that outcome gets is drastically different from, well, my come to Jesus moment was not when I said, God, take it away from me, and he took it away from me, and I was like, oh, God's real. My celebration moment was when I prayed for God to take it away from me, and he didn't. And instead, he showed me how to love myself. He didn't just show me how to love myself initially. He told me, who you are, how I made you, is how you're supposed to be. He gave that to me. And I'm not saying how you're supposed to be. It's for everybody. Clearly, look at Jackie. It's not for Jackie. Jackie was supposed to be delivered from that. Some people are supposed to never drink. Some people are supposed to never get a piercing. Some people are supposed to never get married. There are straight people out here that are supposed to never get married. And they going through a divorce, and they gonna go through a divorce with their third husband too, because you was never supposed to be married, but you're a straight woman. So what I'm saying is, the outcome, like whatever outcome you get, is not like, like, oh, I'm not here to say however God made you is who you're supposed to be and stop it there. No, I'm not here to tell you that, no, if you're gay, be gay. Be gay, love yourself. I'm not here to tell you that, because I had to learn, and I had to learn from other gays and, being delivered from gay people, because it's not just Jackie out here. I know people whose story did not end that way. I know people whose story ended with them desiring and fighting to be straight. These people, to me, you really fight. They still fight you, because I'm like, yo, you gay, but they fighting a good fight, and that's for them. They was never released of that fight. But I also know people that were given the go-ahead, I have a promise, a calling, a direction, I have a message, I have a dream, I need you to go out there, because there's certain people that there's certain children, children, yes, because y'all, I was really young, early middle schools, when I realized I like girls, and realized I was liking girls way before then, but there wasn't no word for it. I just thought, I have a crush. So children, I'm not playing with y'all. And don't be like, oh, like it's your environment. Nah, nigga, I grew up with a father and a mother in a completely straight family. There was nobody around me that was even acting gay. I didn't even have a gay uncle. I ain't got none of that. And if I did, they weren't allowed to be around me. I grew up with straight television shows. So no, what you see does not make you one way. I grew up with everything straight, still came out gay. So don't be trying to pull that whole like, oh, your environment. Because no, your environment can make you gay, but not everybody's environment is what make them gay. Some people was just gay. Some people was just gonna be gay. They was just gonna be gay. That's just what it is. So, and I'm not saying like, oh, you're born gay. Like, I'm not saying it in that aspect. Like, some people are born with mental health disorders. Some people are born with ADHD. There's no DNA, there's no genetic code for ADHD. But if a psychiatrist sits with you long enough and they like, oh, you got ADHD, and they're a kid, it is what it is. So I'm saying, like, sexuality is that same thing. Attraction, period. So my fear for people that could be my age, a little older and definitely younger, my fear is that you're always watching people get celebrated for being delivered. And I don't want anybody to be like, to hate themselves over that, to be jealous, to be like, because I was jealous, I was hurt, I didn't get delivered. I didn't get that. You know what I mean? I didn't get that. So I grew up as that kid that was hating until I received, and I can't even explain it, but the same way, I can imagine the same way Jackie was delivered from liking women, if that's the case. I don't want to speak for her story, but the same way people are delivered from their sins is the same way I was delivered into my sin. Sins is the same thing as taboos. And not everybody taboo is the same. Some people can't eat fish because they're allergic. Some people can. So it's that same thing with, this is all environment we're talking about. So if some people can be allergic to aspects of the environment, and there are also some people that aren't allergic to aspects of the environment. And I feel like that's the same thing with social connections. Some people are going to be allergic to certain social aspects, and some people aren't. To sum it up, my taboo, what I can't do, what I can do, is not going to be the same. Me as a gay person, what I am allowed and not allowed to do in my gay bedroom is not going to be the same for the other gay person. Even in straight relationships, there are straight people right now, straight religious people right now having butt sex. Having butt sex. They don't feel convicted. They love butt sex. They do it all the time because they think, since I'm doing it with my wife, what happens in the bedroom stays in the bedroom. As long as it's straight. That's not true. You're not supposed to be out there doing sodomy, but you know for a fact that's behind closed doors. There are pastors right now sleeping with choir singers in the public. So you know what's going down behind the doors, but they don't feel bad. Some of them do feel bad. So God gives us all a moral compass. The problem was a certain group of people, a certain sect, sat down and decided based on their moral compasses, because they were probably like-minded people. If you're a group, you are like-minded people. So if me and people like me sit down, we're going to be like, yeah, it's totally okay for people to be gay. Why would we not say that? It's me and people like me. So yeah, it's okay to be gay. But if somebody like Jackie and other people like Jackie sit down in a room, they may decide that's not okay. So with any religion, so these organizations, and bigger than religion, just organizations in general, the rules are going to be established based on the leadership. Sometimes when things get too big, they stop. When things get too big, you can no longer, like, you start getting in stuff that don't belong here. Like African American. African American is so big. Meghan Markle and Samuel L. Jackson are both considered black. Christianity is so big that people like my father and B. Simone are both considered Christians, and they're two different kind of people. So with any organization, especially these things that are getting big, there are going to be different outcomes. And I'm here to tell you, there is nothing wrong with different outcomes. That does not mean you did it wrong. It doesn't even mean you did it right. It just means you're doing it different. I promise you that your outcome will always find you. You may miss it a few times. The way you were supposed to go, you may fuck around and go the wrong way, but I promise you, your destiny or the outcome or what you're supposed to learn will always come back around. It has to. It's a part of God's divine order. You will never not have the opportunity to do what you're supposed to do. The only difference is how long is your journey. You will always get to Seattle. You'll either get there in 5 days or 10 years. It is what it is, but you have to get there. And don't let you have a deadline. If God says, I need you to get to Seattle within 10 years, I don't know what the consequences are if you don't get there within 10 years. But shit, if you were supposed to get there within 10 years and then you don't get there until 12 years, I don't know. That's beyond what I could even picture. But I'm sure there's a lot of consequences that go along with that. The outcome gonna be there, but maybe now you can't have it. The woman of your dreams is gonna be there, but you was already married to somebody else, and now it's just messed up. It's just messed up. Intuition, aka the Holy Ghost, aka listening to God, like listening to God's voice. Some people don't have good intuition. You need to build your connection with God. But prayer, meditation, religion calls it prayer, spirituality calls it meditation. These things can intertwine. So you got to learn, and this takes some years. It's okay if you're young and you still don't get it down. That's okay. It takes some years for you and your body and your genetic makeup to learn to hear God. Because God also knows, and God also has a system that for some people, he's not going to speak to you until you're a certain age anyways. Or you know what I'm saying? Like he's overseeing it all. God is the divine creator, which means of the good and the bad. God created Adam and Eve, y'all. You think God created Eve not knowing she was gonna go eat the apple? What kind of God is he? What kind of God who knows everything would not know that? He knew that, which means it was on purpose, because everything is a divine order. Everything's on purpose. So your faults and your non-faults, your problems and your not problems, all those things, it's okay. It's okay. But I'm here to tell you that it is okay if you are coming out with a different outcome. If God isn't delivering you from homosexuality, but he's delivering you from the, what do you call that? He's delivering you from the self-hate of being homosexual. He's delivering you from the bigotry of being homosexual. And it's bigotry for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay if God's not taking away your homosexuality, because we're specifically talking about this. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And it's not okay just because it's okay. It's okay because it's your outcome, because that's what God had for you. I know you're growing up in a world, potentially, if you're watching this video, you're growing up in a world where you don't hear that a lot. In this day and age, you hear it a lot more. Like, be you, be happy, be you, be happy. But one thing about the Pride movement, one thing about, like, the LGBTQ, the Hollywood gay movement, one thing about that is that it's all fantasy. Just like with Hollywood, it's not real. So telling people to love themselves and be prideful, but not showing them how, is stupid. It's stupid. You could tell me, oh yeah, go hunt for your own food, and never show me how to hunt. How am I gonna eat? So telling young people to just be proud, but they every day gotta go to a real life home where they have a religious family or religious upbringing, and those people who go with them every day and are real are telling them to hate themselves. Just being prideful isn't enough. So even in today's day and age, what we see out there in the media is not always what's really happening behind closed doors. So it's okay. I'm here to tell you, if the media is out there making it be like, be proud for blah, 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 but they're not giving you no real historical context, I'm here to tell you, I still am gay, but what I'm trying to say is I was a young gay person, like how Jackie Hill was a young gay person. Now I'm an older gay person, but I was a young gay person. I was seeking to not be gay. I was actually religious. I was actually real active in the church. I was actively praying against homosexuality with no fault. I was too young to have real sins. So I was like, why would God not listen to me? Really, really, really doing the hard work, doing similar hard work to what Jackie Hill did to get delivered of her homosexual desires. I was that person. The difference between me and Jackie is I came out with a different outcome. And my outcome was that God said, Christian, Your sexuality is okay. I need you to be you and accept that part of you, because I have a message for you that I need you to go tell other young people that are like you and need to hear that story. Like you, as in, there are young gay people that are gonna have to be gay, and they're gonna be okay with it, and they're gonna need somebody to tell them this is how you transition. Or this is what it looks like, rather. Can't really tell you how, but this is what it looks like. These steps are real. You will get through this. While you're preaching that message, though, Christian, there are going to be some people, some gay kids, that are going to go straight. And so when they hear your message, it's going to fall on deaf ears. And that's okay. You're not out there really talking to them. You out there talking to them, give them another perspective. But it doesn't matter, because it was never for them to hear. So I'm here for the people that need to hear this side of it. A relationship with God done right does not heal you of homosexuality. That's not what heals Jackie. That's Jackie's relationship with God did not heal her of homosexuality. God's destiny for Jackie is what healed her of homosexuality. Just like God's destiny for me is what allowed me to love myself, accept myself, and be able to walk with this message that I have stopped talking about as much, because I'm tired of being one of the few voices. And there's a lot more of us, as we get older. I'm running into a lot more of us as I get older, like, oh, you have my story, and you're like me. You're not out here being overly prideful, like, oh, pride, because you didn't grow up like that. You grew up with being gay and being depressed. You didn't grow up with being gay and being prideful. I'm running into more people like me. And that's what happens. Social media has its good aspects, but it's a message that I haven't been talking about as much recently, because it was hell getting to where I am. Just like it was hell for Jackie to get to where she is. Who wants to keep fucking talking about your hellish experience? Who wants to do that? Even if you've made it through it. Even a woman that's gotten raped and was able to win a lawsuit for $1 million. You think she wants to always talk about her rape story? No, she just wants to celebrate the fact that she got $1 million. Jackie just wants to celebrate the fact that she's delivered. I just want to celebrate the fact that I'm delivered. Jackie's delivered from homosexuality, and I was delivered from the self-hate of homosexuality. However else you want to word it. So, tired, man. But yeah, I just felt like I had to say this, because, the No For Sure podcast is a really popular podcast. I mean, God really has placed a blessing on them, and that's amazing, And also Jackie, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, this is not a shade video of Jackie or anything like that. I just have to play my part. And my part is to say that most of the time you're going to see people celebrated for being delivered by God of the homosexuality. You will not hear a lot of stories of people being celebrated for being delivered into homosexuality. Even when I just said that, even when I just said delivered into homosexuality, a lot of y'all felt real uncomfortable by that. Because Christianity, which is where this rule comes from, Christianity has made it seem like that God only has it one way. Let me tell you something. Every Christian in the world does not have the same experience. So for all of them to tell you that this is the one way it could happen, they don't even have that for themselves. Let it breathe.